has heard of gluten? Anyone? That's pretty impressive, so I won't have to explain it to half of you, but maybe to the other. Really good to be here this afternoon. Really exciting to be with so many people who are budding entrepreneurs and just starting the journey. I think just before we get going, the fact that you're all sitting here means that we all share the same sort of characteristics, that we're risk-taking, we're energetic, we're innovative, and no matter what you end up doing, you need to have particular traits as an entrepreneur if you're going to get somewhere with your idea. You're actually really important as well. You should give yourselves a pat on the back. It's really important to our country and the economy at the moment that there are people like you out there. And literally sort of 1% in increase of people going into self-employment and starting their own businesses makes a huge impact on the economy. And the great news is, because you're all learning about enterprise, you're actually going to be doubling your chances for success in your business. We've already heard this morning from two very different speakers about what makes you successful in business. And I've just listed a few here, that surround yourself with positive people, and that you're doing that already. People with ideas, people you can feed off each other's energy and discuss your ideas with. You need to have a great product. You need to have a product that people really, really need. If they don't need it, they're not going to buy it. So no matter how clever it is, it's not going to make it out there unless you have something that you know people need. So you need to research it properly. Never be arrogant. Never be deluded about what you're taking to market. You need to know for sure that people want it. It's very important to have the vision and to really understand what you're setting out to do, and to look ahead, not just be living in the present. You need to be able to work hard. You've heard that already today. Work is really important. You have to just completely absorb yourself in what you're trying to do, because otherwise, at the first hurdle, it'll start to wane. I think the two most important things, again, we heard earlier, don't be afraid of failure. This is a great time to fail. There are loads of people failing at the moment out there. So if you're one of them, it's not a big deal. You'll have learnt lots along the way. And obviously enjoy the experience. That's really important. Enjoy what you do. Live for the moment as well with it. My journey started, well, about 10 years ago, really. This is sort of where the journey is. I came up with a gluten-free bread as a result of my son, who was 3 at the time, being diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. And at the time, about 5 years ago, there were about 15% of people dipping in and out of a gluten-free diet. But only 2.4% of those people ever bought gluten-free bread. And they would only eat about a 20th of the normal bread consumption, because the bread was so terrible. It was dry and gritty and horrible and crumbly, and it smelt of chemicals, and been made by scientists who'd been sort of told to make something last for 6 months. And it was really, really unpleasant, and it was very expensive. So all in all, I wasn't very impressed, and I thought, right, time for me to try and change that and bring a great fresh bread to market that people would enjoy and share with their family and friends. We took the bread to market in 2009. I'll tell you how I got there. And this shows the demand, shows just what a difference it made to people who hadn't been eating bread for years and years because there just wasn't anything decent on the market. Within 2 years, we'd actually increased the gluten-free bread market by 250% on the back of that little loaf there. We have a 53% market share of gluten-free now, and 53 of bread and 15 of the gluten-free market. And literally, until recently, that was on a white and brown loaf, because, as we know, bread is absolutely at the core of our lives. We eat it for breakfast, snacks, lunch, for tea, with soup in the evening. It's so important. So we've transformed people's lives through developing this bread, because it now means that people can live normally and enjoy meals in a way that they didn't before. From 15% of the market, the population dipping in and out of gluten-free, now 34% of people are enjoying gluten-free products on a regular basis, because there's much more awareness of the benefits of a gluten-free diet, and because of the sort of breakthrough of showing people that they could actually buy something that tasted good, people are beginning to look at the gluten-free shelves much more regularly now for new and exciting products. We've also launched the bread in the last year in America and Spain, which is also very exciting. I don't know how many of you know much about gluten intolerances and celiac disease. Celiac disease is a very, very severe autoimmune disease caused by eating wheat and other ingredients that contain gluten, which is the protein in wheat. It's the elastic sort of chewing gum-like protein in wheat. If you mix wheat flour with water, it becomes very gummy and chewy, and there are a lot of people who can't eat that. When they do, it causes their gut to inflame. And the villi in the gut then actually wear away, which means you then can't absorb your food. And you can end up with all sorts of horrible symptoms that, until quite recently, were never actually linked to celiac disease. But GPs are now very much looking at anemia, osteoporosis, thyroid problems, all sorts of sort of problems that are often linked with malnutrition with celiac disease. So you might not get the sort of classic bloaty tummies, which is the symptom that we all hear about, the sort of gassy, very sore tummies and rushing off to the loo every 5 seconds. It can be completely hidden and only crop up when you have a bone density scan or something like that, or you're feeling tired and you go to the doctor for a blood test. So it's a very serious condition. At the other end of the scale, a gluten intolerance might be that you just feel really tired after you've eaten, or you might have slightly sort of dry skin. It might be just symptoms that are affecting your life slightly, and you're just feeling slightly off par, or you might just feel as though your tummy feels much bigger at the end of the day, and it's quite uncomfortable. In my son's case, he was actually very ill. He was a minute little thing that wasn't growing. He wasn't thriving. He was on the loo all the time. He'd be lying on chairs after meals with a very, very sore tummy. And so when we finally realized what the problem was, and we had to cut bread out of the diet, on one, it was a real relief to know what the problem was, but the other was, oh my goodness, how on earth are we going to live without bread and pasta and biscuits and pastry and all of the products that rely heavily on wheat flour, and the gluten that allows you to make those products. This is what gluten looks like. If you wash away the starch in a mixture of wheat and water, you end up with this gluey mass, and it basically forms the network in bread that gives you that lovely open bubbly structure. It also forms the layers in puff pastry. It forms the sort of puffiness of a profiterole, and so without it, it's very difficult to bake anything that tastes great. Everything's very dry and crumbly, doesn't hold together, won't rise, and the food that's the hardest to make is bread, and that's why there was nothing on the market, because bread is half flour, half water, pretty much. There's a bit of yeast and a little bit of oil and sugar and salt in there. But if you take all the wheat flour away, what have you got? You've got water. And a lot of people, just thought, well, golly, this is far too hard. Me liking a bit of a challenge and having the background I did, felt that it was a challenge I wanted to take on and see if I could solve. I was trained, I'm a physiologist, read physiology at university, so I'm a scientist at heart. But after my degree, I was desperate to get my foodie bug out of my system. My family were all in the food industry, and they always said, don't go into the food industry, very hard work, underpaid, don't do it. But it was obviously in the genes. So I went to Leith School of Food and Wine in London and did a 6-month course there. Loved every second. There was a pub next door, and we all used to sit in the pub until we got thrown out every night talking about food and sitting there with all our recipe books. And it was just fantastic. And on the back of my course there, I thought, right, I really must go and learn to be a proper chef, because I've learnt to cook well, but I want to hone my skills. So I went to Bibendum, which is a Michelin star restaurant in London, and there was a chef there for a year, which was the most awful, awful experience. And everything you see on telly is true, and I would never ever do it again, but it sort of taught me to work blimmin' hard, very long hours for very little pay. It toughened me up, and it taught me that I could actually deal with some really pretty awful situations and get through them and come into work the following day and start the day in a sort of jolly fashion and get through it and learn more. But after a year, I felt it was time to move on. Best thing I ever did. Ran a catering company in London for 3 years, which was a very interesting experience, very, very small. It wasn't really a proper business. It was just me in my kitchen at home, really, but doing lots of really big events. And I then went back to the school I'd taught in and taught there. They asked me to write the Leith Techniques Bible, which is the science of food, science of ingredients, why we cook with the ingredients we do, so why we use flour and eggs and all those ingredients that we take completely for granted. And the reason is because they're versatile, they do all sorts of different things in food. You can use them for lots of different purposes. They have a neutral flavour, they're fantastic. That book was voted 6th best cookery book ever. So I thought, right, on the back of that success, I better get going on something else. I had 2 children with food allergies by this stage, one with dairy, one with gluten. My third one can eat anything, thank goodness. And I thought, right, I'll write the How to Cook for Food Allergies book, which is actually doing incredibly well. And it's all about substituting ingredients. So I'd written the book on why we use ingredients we do in mainstream cooking. And this book is how you take all those ingredients out and what you use instead to get the same result. And that was a really interesting experience, and sure enough, the hardest recipe to get right was the bread. The book needed a bread recipe because otherwise I didn't feel it would have the weight it needed to be a helpful book for people with allergies. So that's how it all started. The bread, I just became obsessed. I mean, I just found it so fascinating. If you look at bread in isolation, it is the most unbelievably interesting thing. You know, we all eat it all the time, we don't think about it, but it's incredibly interesting. And as a scientist, I really wanted to sort of unpick all the different properties of bread and what made bread, and try and imitate that using blends of gluten-free flours and gums and all these sort of things that you have to use to produce something that rises and looks and behaves and tastes and smells and toasts like bread should. So I spent 18 months like a woman possessed in my kitchen at home. I broke 2 ovens, Magimix. My children would come back from school and there'd be 14 loaves of bread on the side, and they're all chief tasters, and they're always the first to taste anything I develop. And one day they said, "Mummy, that's delicious. I'd really like some more." So I thought, my goodness, that's a breakthrough. I must be nearly there. So the book by this stage was out on the shelves. How to Cook Food Allergies was out on the shelves. And when I had a bread that I felt really good about, put it in my book. Sorry, it was already in my book, but I'd sort of taken the recipe on a bit. Went to Sainsbury's, just my local store, and said, "You've got my book. That's doing well, because people need to know how to cook decent food when they have allergies, because there's nothing on the market." I'd done some market research. There was, in the ready meal section, I think, there was 1 meal in Marks and Spencer's and Sainsbury's that my children could have eaten. All of the Thai curries had dairy in them. And Thais don't eat dairy. Tomato sauces with flour in it. Why do you need flour in the tomato sauce? So it's very, very difficult for people with allergies to eat normally. So I said, what you need is a really decent bread, because the bread you have on the market is terrible. The manageress of the store was intrigued, took it to the staff room. They rang me the following day and said, "Yeah, we all thought that was very nice, thank you very much. You should speak to the buyer in London." So I rang the bakery buyer in London, and he was terribly arrogant, really, really arrogant, but I just thought, no, I'll just, that's okay. I'll just tell him what I've been doing. And he was going, yeah, I'm sure it's nothing really. We get phone calls all the time. to your point, persistence. There was a lot of persistence. I spoke to him a number of times, and he finally told me to approach a gluten-free bakery in Scotland called United Central Bakeries, which was perfect because I had 3 small children. I don't know whether you've found out yet, but you might well be spending quite a lot of time going up and down to London with your idea, because unfortunately a lot of business is down in London. And I was delighted to have found something close by. So I approached the gluten-free bakery, United Central Bakeries in Bathgate, and they were really interested and said, right, well, let's see if we can commercialise the recipe. Let's take it from the 450 gram recipe and turn it into a 200 kilo batch. So I worked with them for another year, basically scaling it up, which was really interesting. Chefs don't know they're born. Much harder working in a factory where you've got these huge distances to walk, to find equipment. You know, you might need a bowl, literally to find a bowl. It might take you half an hour to find a bowl because you've had to walk half a mile to get it, and then it's not on the shelf and it's gone to the washing place, and you know, and all the machinery goes wrong and it's huge and it takes ages to put it right, and all the engineers have to come, and it was absolutely fascinating, and I really take my hat off to people who work in factories. But anyway, on the back of all the hard work we put into it, we came up with a groundbreaking fresh gluten-free loaf. It did what bread should do. It was nutritious as well. It had lots of fibre in it. Rice bran in it gave it lots of vitamins and minerals as well, which was really important because the breads at the time had been very starchy, and that was about it. And not great for people with diabetes. Diabetes and celiac disease are quite closely connected. So we were absolutely delighted. There was a lot of hard work, but there also seemed to be quite a lot of luck in this whole project. And I do think that we heard earlier that when you work hard and you really work at something, luck comes your way. And not only had I found this bakery just down the road to work with, but there happened to be a father who'd drop his son off at school in the morning at the same time as me. And he was celiac, and he'd say, you know, so how's the bread coming on? How's the bread coming on? I said, I'll drop some round when it's ready. I'm not going to give it to you until it's really just right, and I know we can make it. And so when it was ready, I dropped some around to his house, and he rang me, and he said, the following day, and said, I don't know whether you know who I am, but I'm Sir Bill Gamble. I'm the founder of Cairn Energy, and you know, I can pretty much have what I want in life, but I can't have bread. And this is an opportunity for me to be able to eat bread and to help you take your bread to all of those other people out there who haven't been able to eat bread for 30, 40 years. And I'd like to back you with investment and with a team of people that can help you take your bread to market properly. Because if you take your bread to market slowly, which is what I planned to do, I knew there was a big market out there, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. With my limited funds, and he said, you've got to do it quickly because it's a brilliant idea, it's a great vision, and if you don't do it, someone else will go off with it. So let's do it properly. So at the beginning of 2008, I was a mum who was at home, obsessively making bread and covered in flour most of the time. And at the end of 2008, I was working with a great team of people, real fantastic experts in their fields in brand building and negotiators to deal with the supermarkets, and a finance person, and all these people that could really help me bring my idea to life. Because I think it's really important also when you go into business that you don't think you can do everything. That's rule number one. Don't believe you can do everything. We're only human, and you'll have your particular expertise. And it's, if you can, try and surround yourself with people who are able to do the other things better than you can, because that way you've got a much greater chance of success. And as we heard earlier, that actually it's very, very exciting working in a team. Doing everything on your own, going through all the highs and lows on your own is very, very difficult. And if you can share the highs and lows with a team of you, it's actually very comforting, and problems don't seem so difficult. So we had a loaf. We knew it was good, but we hadn't consumer tested it. Sent it out to consumers. Consumers were scared to try it because they couldn't believe it could be gluten-free, because gluten-free bread, by definition, is what the definition was disgusting. And here was a loaf of bread that actually tasted good. And so they were quite nervous about tasting it in the first place, just in case it made them ill. But they were delighted with it and really felt that there was a market for our product. So interestingly, Sainsbury's in the end didn't go for it. They didn't see the market. They were selling 2 loaves of gluten-free bread, I think, every month. Tesco, however, saw that there was a real opportunity here and listed us into 700 stores nationwide overnight, which was quite a thing, because we hadn't sold a loaf of bread at this stage. And suddenly we were nationwide in 700 stores. And the factory, who'd said to me at the beginning, well, you know, the minimum would be 600 a week, 600 loaves a week for you. But we were up to 10,000 loaves a day very quickly. So it was, we were actually lurched into this unbelievable roller coaster, and it was all really, really exciting, but actually we were sort of victims of our own success in a way, that it was really difficult to keep up with the demand. We were 3 of us, there were 3 of us in our team, and yet the bread was all around the country, and we had consumers, you know, ringing and emailing, and I was up with my husband all night emailing because I was desperate to get back to consumers who were so delighted that they could eat bread. They could eat a bacon butty again, they could, you know, have a chip butty, they could have a it was just the real simple things that they wanted. Baked beans on toast. Children weren't being bullied at school anymore because their lunch looked like everybody else's. Women, you know, people sitting in the staff room at work weren't being stared at when they took their rice cake out of their packed lunch box each day. And it made people felt normal again. They could make a sandwich and take it to work with them, whereas before you'd have had to toast the bread or microwave the bread to make it edible. So it was quite difficult keeping up with the situation we suddenly found ourselves in. In the first 6 months, we'd won 4 major trade awards. Most exciting was the Quality Food Award, which first that evening it was just amazing. We won best product in category. So we got some champagne, all very excited. And at the end of the evening, we won the best product over all categories in the supermarkets. And that had to be a real high. And it was a real sort of wonderful feeling after all the hard work, after all the all-nighters I'd been doing in the factory, after all the problems we'd had with the bread, being very sensitive and trying to scale it up and trying to keep the consistency where it needed to be, trying to make all the bread that, you know, that we were making huge volumes of bread so quickly, and it hadn't been easy. And so it's very, very important to really celebrate the high points, because there are lots of lows that you have to get through. In 2010, by the middle of 2010, we were all in all the supermarkets. We were in Starbucks, so it meant that people could go and buy themselves a sandwich now. They didn't even need to remember to make their sandwich at home to take to work. They could just go into Starbucks, buy a sarnie, and like everybody else, and their life was easier. And that was really important. We also became available on prescription, because I felt it was very important. The bread is more expensive. It's £2.99 for a loaf of that white bread there. So it's about 3 times as expensive as normal bread. And I thought it was really important that people who couldn't afford to buy the bread were also able to get to receive it somehow. And they can go to their GP if they're a diagnosed celiac and get it on prescription. They can, you know, the doctor writes a prescription, they go to their pharmacy and they pick it up. And we have our bread in about 80% of pharmacies across the UK now. So that's a big part of our business. Because well, there were lots of people watching what was happening, people started to think, oh, wow, this is quite an interesting opportunity. I didn't realise the gluten-free bread the market was this big. And so we started to see competitors on the horizon. There were people trying to bring out breads that were similar. And we thought it was really important to just get the word out. At the time, we were servicing the celiac community, the people who really needed the bread, and we needed to get the word out to more people. And we felt the best thing would be to be the first free-from brand to advertise on the telly. So we brought out an Einstein advertising campaign for 6 months, And it was Einstein doing some maths, doing some really difficult sums, and getting distracted by his lunch. He was thinking, God, what can, I'd love some of that genius bread with a sandwich. And we ran about 6 different ads, and it was really very exciting to see it on the television. And I went to the making of the adverts, and it was absolutely fascinating. 40 people it took from sunrise to sunset to make 6 30-second ads, and everyone had their particular purpose. There was one man with dentist tools spending all day pushing bread into the bread bag and doing it up so that it looked absolutely perfect for the shot, and he did that all day. Fascinating. 2011 was an interesting year. Lots of competitors nipping at our heels. We thought it was really important to bring out more products. We weren't just about bread. Gluten is in 2/3 of the food we eat, so the market's huge across lots of different categories. So we brought out some frozen products, some pies and slices. We had sandwiches in the supermarket by this stage. We brought out tea cakes and fruit loaf and seeded bread. We brought mince pies out at Christmas time, and we've got frozen pizzas as well. And we also took the bread over to America, and that was an interesting experience because obviously America's enormous, and they sell there. If you're quite a small bakery over there, your bread is sold frozen. They don't buy fresh bread from small bakeries, it's sold frozen. And we had a real problem with the recipe, because when you freeze bread, you lose a day of shelf life, and when you defrost bread, you lose a day of shelf life because the starches become denatured and they become quite gritty, and that's the staling effect. And the bread only has an 8-day shelf life. So it was a real issue. So we had to really rework the recipe, which was no mean feat, given it had taken me 3 years to develop it in the first place. So that was a real sort of unforeseen challenge that we had to work through. But the bread's doing well. We licensed it to another gluten-free company out there who's very well known in the States, and it means that we could get the bread out quickly. We didn't have to try and do it all on our own. We could work with a well-known brand, so we co-branded out there. We also now have our pizzas and bread in Spain, which is very exciting. People often say, well, why aren't you in other European countries? Well, we're a small team. We are now 20, but we're a small team. There's 2 product people. There's me and the lady that I work with, and we are in charge of products in 3 factories in the UK, the factory in America. And there's a limit to what you can do, and you have to go about things in a strategic, sort of realistic way. If you try and do everything all at once, things will start to fall over, you'll do a really bad job, and then you'll lose the business. So it's really important to just absolutely plan how you're going to do things. We've just launched the bread in Greggs as well, because again, we wanted to make the bread more and more available to people, really up the availability. And obviously there's a Greggs on every street corner. So very excited about that. We've also just brought out pita breads and pancakes. They're about to launch any second. And in fact, just before I forget, if any of you would like a free bag of samples, if you post at Genius on your phone, the first 10 are going to get some free bags of samples, so you can do that after this. So we've got a very exciting year ahead. 1 in 4 now dip in and out of gluten-free. We're in about 21% of growth year on year, driven by volume and frequency of purchase. We've increased the frozen free-from category by 85% just with the products that we've now got in the freezer in the supermarkets. There was very little before, and we're very, very keen to grow that category, because if you buy things frozen, you don't have to put preservatives. You can keep things really, really natural, and I'm a real fan of that. The global market is on a very, very high, steady increase. It'll be about 4.3 billion over the next 5 years globally. America is the biggest market, UK is second, Spain I think is third. There's a lot to do, very, very exciting. I feel as though the journey has only just begun actually. And our vision is to be the global brand leader in great tasting gluten-free food across all the categories relevant to gluten-free. And when we benchmark our products, it's always against pretty much the best products in the mainstream market, because I don't see why people with allergies should eat lesser quality food. And in fact, they deserve better quality food than the rest of us, because there's a lot they can't eat. So here are some of our products that we've been busy working on. And there's a lot more to do. I think the other thing that's really important is when you set up in business, you'll have a really firm idea of what you want to go and do, and there'll always be lots and lots of people trying to wave you off your path because it suits them. They'll have their own agenda. They'll want to get involved in some way with their own agenda. And I think it's really important that when you set out with a job to do, that you don't sort of find yourself going in a completely different direction because it suits others. It's much easier to do that in the short term. It's much harder to stay on your path. And it's very important to try and stick to your core values. I would say, just in summary, really, you need to have a great product if you're going to be successful in business. Think big, don't think small. Think, where can your idea go? Can it be a global opportunity? Get a team around you that can help you bring it to life. Don't be complacent if things are going well. Always be making plans for competitors coming out of nowhere. Listen to your consumers. We have, out of a group of 20 of us, we have 6 people that take consumer calls because we have a very vocal bunch of consumers. We're changing their lives, and it's really important that they can talk to us. And if they're not happy with something, that we're listening to them. If there's another product they're desperate for, that we're adding that to our product list, our MPD plan. And that's really important. And as I've mentioned, you must enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's exciting. You meet so many new people in so many different walks of life, in so many different places when you're in business. It's very exciting. And I've learned lots of things. I don't have all the skills. Get people around you that do have it. Know what you're good at, know what you're bad at, and get the people around you that have all those skills that you don't. I like the fact that, having worked on my own for years and years and years, I now don't have to solve all the problems on my own. I have a team of people that we can go about problem solving together. Stay true to your values, keep the faith, keep your belief. And I have to say, I've found the support of friends and family absolutely critical to me, because if you've had a really difficult day, it's been fantastic to be able to offload in the evening. So I think it's really important to sort of be prepared to talk about it with people and get people's input, particularly if you're starting on your own. You need to talk to people. And I think you get out what you put in. I think you might be chipping away at something, just thinking, I'm not getting anywhere here, but you are. You're chipping away. It's like making a sculpture. You're chipping away at the beginning. It looks like nothing, maybe for months, and then gradually it starts to take shape. And all the effort you put in now will come out somehow later on. It might be in a completely different direction, but it's all good stuff, what you're all doing at the moment. So good luck to you all, and thank you very much.